kids, it is Saturday morning and Mrs. W is actually at school doing some work. I would like you to find your reading books and I would like you to turn to page 71. It's right down in the corner. And I want you to look at the cover for our new story, Mrs. Brown Went to Town. Now, just like we've been talking all year long, we are looking at stories that are sometimes real and sometimes not real. Remember, we call those stories fantasy stories. So today we're going to read a story. Actually, I'm going to read it to you, and I would like you to follow along in your book. So this story takes place on a farm, and Mrs. Brown is the owner of that farm, and there are many animals that live on that farm with Mrs. Brown. But one day, something happens when Mrs. Brown has to leave the farm and go to town. One really cool thing about the way the author designed this book is that it's got a rhythm to it, a beat to it. You will hear words that sound the same. We say those words rhyme. So as we read, you will hear my voice get into a rhythm, and you can probably predict what the next word is just because you've heard the rhyme. So let's go and get our story started. Mrs. Brown went to town. Remember to follow along. Mrs. Brown lives in the barn out back with a cow, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. Life on the farm wasn't always this way. Everything changed just last Saturday. I wonder what that change could be. Everything looks pretty normal to me right now. Let's find out. When riding her bicycle down the street, a terrier tasted Mrs. Brown's feet. In a hospital bed she rested, waiting to be x-rayed and tested. Mrs. Brown sent word in a letter to say she'd come home when she was feeling better. Aha, now we know why Mrs. Brown had to go to town, because she got hurt while riding her bicycle and had to stay in the hospital. Wonder what will happen at the farm now that Mrs. Brown is in town. The postman delivered the letter out back for a cow, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. All the animals except for a mouse voted to move into Mrs. Brown's house. Now that is definitely not real. That's definitely fantasy. They rang the doorbell to hear the chimes, flushed the toilet 100 times. Okay, that's kind of funny. Raced up the stairs, came sliding back down, each one wearing a different gown. Took turns bouncing on Mrs. Brown's bed, painted the house in matching barn red. Look at the disaster they are causing in Mrs. Brown's house. They raided the pantry, prepared a snack for 2 cows, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. Oh, that reminds me of Julius and the mess he made with the peanut butter and the coffee and the syrup. What a mess. In the bathroom they played for hours, putting on makeup and taking long showers. They dried off in front of a roaring fire, warm and cozy but beginning to tire. Tiptoed upstairs by candlelight, borrowed pajamas to wear for the night. Borrowed Mrs. Brown's pajamas? Oh boy. Well, the hospital released Mrs. Brown at 8. A taxi cab dropped her off by the gate. So she's coming back home. I wonder what will happen. She hobbled upstairs and crawled in the sack. Didn't see a cow, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. The floor beneath them began to quake. The walls and windows started to shake. All this commotion woke Mrs. Brown just in time to feel her bed crashing down. Oh boy, she was sure surprised, and so were the animals. Well, the police were first to arrive on the scene. Fire trucks dispatched from Station 13. An ambulance raced all the way from town and carried away poor Mrs. Brown. In the hospital, she lay on her back with a cow, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. The hospital released Mrs. Brown at 10. The doctors waved goodbye once again. Into a taxi they crammed all 8. The driver dropped them off by the gate. He swept out the feathers and hair and charged Mrs. Brown twice the fare. Life on the farm wasn't always this way until Mrs. Brown went to town that day. So now she lives in the barn out back with a cow, 2 pigs, 3 ducks, and a yak. What a crazy adventure Mrs. Brown had. I can't believe all the things that happened. Well, thanks for listening, kids. I hope you enjoyed the story. Remember to think about, how did our story read in a rhyme? How did our story have rhythm? What words sounded the same? We'll be doing an activity later so you can practice. Bye for now.